I will be explaining this diagram as we finish up our video devotional series on the Beatitudes. This is what I call the literary diagram, and it just basically outlines how good literature goes. It begins with an introduction, which introduces our character, the setting, the place, everything like that. We have our rising action, where our protagonist and our antagonist begin to have a conflict one with another. We have our climax, which is the turning point of the story, where things begin to go good for our protagonist. And then we have our falling action. This is where you begin to see where the story arc is headed in the end. And finally, we have a resolution or a conclusion. And a good literature is going to have something fairly logical, something that you want to see. Occasionally there's a twist. Occasionally there's no resolution. However, this is kind of the model for literature. And we've been talking about how the Beatitudes all read like a literary story. And I'm going to do my best to explain that to you today, popping in and out of the screen just to show you some relationships. The first thing we want to talk about is the introduction and the setting. The introduction and the setting of the Beatitudes is this: you and I need God. We are in perpetual need of God. It's found in verse 3 where Jesus says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit." Now, as we begin our rising action, you need to understand something. We are both the protagonist and the antagonist in this part of the story. Mourning sin, understanding that I fall short, understanding that I am unclean and I am undone. Being meek, like verse 5 says, "Blessed are the meek," understanding that there is an innate pride inside of all humanity. Do you know this conflict is inside of yourself? This conflict is in you and it is in me. It is us fighting our natural sinful nature. And that's why we call this part right here an emptying of self. The battle being waged is the battle for our spirits, and more often than not, we are fighting our own natural, evil, sinful desires. Now, as we begin to empty ourselves, as we begin to win this conflict and we're empty, then we hunger and thirst because we're empty. And when you are empty, be it naturally empty or spiritually empty, there's a hunger and a thirst that begins to build on the inside of you. And this is what Jesus says in verse 6, that if we hunger and thirst after righteousness, we will be filled. And we learn that righteousness is right standing. So now this side, the falling action, is showing a relationship between this over here, between what we were fighting against, and it shows what it's like to be full of a relationship with God. So we've hungered and thirsted. Now we've been filled with a relationship with God. And now we start this falling action of being merciful. And this is what we learned, that you cannot show mercy if you're full of pride, because someone who's full of pride only is full of judgment. They can't offer mercy. But someone who recognizes that they are always able to learn, that they have a good disposition, that God is in them, they're able to give mercy. So there's a direct correlation here. There's a direct correlation here between being pure in heart. Here, we mourn our sin. We recognize we were full of sin. On the other side of the equation, now we have a pure heart, a heart after God. And what are we able to do? We are able to see God's handiwork in everything. We talked about how this isn't just seeing God up in heaven and on his throne in glory, which we'll experience that one day. But what we're understanding is right here is we see God working in situations where when we were full of sin, we couldn't see God working in that situation. And then here, the poor in spirit and the peacemaker. Another direct correlation. When you're poor in spirit, you understand that you need God. When you're a peacemaker, what do? You introduce people to God. See, now that you're full of a right relationship with God, now you can bring people to Christ. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Verse 10, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Now listen, blessed are the peacemakers, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Do you want to know, blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called sons of God or children of God. And you know what children of God want to do? They want to bring everybody in to meet their dad. And then finally, the last thing here, the resolution. This is where it all ends. Blessed are those who are persecuted, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. This is a different kingdom of heaven. Over here, this is the introduction into God's kingdom. This is the setting. This is how you enter in, understanding your perpetual need for God. Over here, it's an understanding that you spend forever with God. And that is a beautiful thing. And what we learned about persecution is you're going to be either respected or hated for your relationship with God. People are going to come after you because your relationship with God is so good and so pure and so awesome, and they just need one more thing to push them over to follow in this relationship. That could be you, or there is always going to be a fight of the enemy. There's always going to be a fight of the enemy against people who love God. And you will actually be hated for your faith. It will come. They hated Jesus. They'll hate us. That's what Jesus says. All of this is found in Matthew chapter 5, verses 3 through 10. But here's the kicker. This is where I want to end it today for you. This word blessed or blessed. And I can't spell. Let me try that again. Blessed. Oh, now I'm writing Greek. Hold on. Blessed. Or blessed. You know what that means? It means more than happy. More than happy. More than happy. That's what to be blessed is. All of this, you will be more than happy when you understand you need God. You'll be more than happy when you get rid of that sin. You'll be more than happy when you get rid of that pride. You'll be more than happy when you are filled up with a relationship with Jesus. You'll be more than happy when you show mercy instead of judgment. You'll be more than happy when you have a pure heart and see God in every situation. You'll be more than happy when you introduce people to God because you are making peace between man and God. And you will be more than happy when people come to Christ, or you'll be more than happy when people hate you and persecute you. You will be more than happy. That's what it means to live this life. That's what it means to live a life full of the Beatitudes, to be more than happy when you live this story arc. I love you. We'll see you soon. Have a great week. God bless you.